Good morning, everybody. This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It is sponsored by Independent Bank, and I am so tickled about who we have in the studio this morning. And I rolled out of bed and I thought to myself, what is one word to describe these two men and what they mean to Cadillac? They are icons. We have Bob Kellogg and John Horrigan in the studio with us. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Katie.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
I want to hear what you two are up to.
Retirement.
It looks good on you boys, I'll tell you what. Tell us about your project, Bob.
Well, this is a project that John and I were asked to be involved in 2 years ago. And I think we both have always been community minded individuals, especially since we've retired from education, and really just trying to help raise the money so we can do some incredible things at Veterans Memorial Stadium.
Wow. Okay. And so, John, tell me how this went down. I have a feeling Jen Brown's involved in this. I think a phone call probably came from her, didn't it?
Absolutely. It's Fred Bryant, the AD, sure. And I knew Fred when he was up in the UP as an AD, and so Bob actually was on board before I knew. We've talked for years about the need for the turf and the track and whatever, and then Bob called me and said, would you want to come in and meet with Fred? So we went in, and it's just a great project we got on board with.
Awesome. Does anyone say no to you two fellas?
Well, I wish, Katie, that we could say that everybody we've asked for a donation had said yes. It would make the whole whole challenge a little easier. But we live in a great community, and we've had a number of people who have said yes and done some great some great donations, and that could be anything from a brick at $150 to one of the columns that's going to be at the beginning of the opening to the field, to the stadium, for $25,000.
Incredible.
I think my own personal opinion, being a lifelong Cadillac resident, is I think that everyone is very excited about this because, number one, it will always be Veterans Memorial Stadium, but there were some definite upgrades that needed to be made to the stadium. Whether it be the new turf or getting the correct meters instead of yards, to the track, and so I think I speak for both John and myself that our years of being involved in athletics here, as well as just education in general, we knew that this would be something that not only needed now, but it's going to be something that's going to be there for years and years. To come.
You two are going to be a part of that legacy, and you already were, and it's inspiring to watch people who gave so much retire and still be so refreshed and committed to the community, and so we are grateful. Can you tell us about, if I'm out listening today, can you tell us how to get involved, how to buy a brick, what does the money go for, and that kind of thing for folks that aren't familiar with the project?
Well, one phase of it, and the other thing is that everybody loves the stadium, and so when we talk to people, turf was I shouldn't say a hard thing. A lot of people don't understand, why do you need turf? They played on grass forever. I played on grass and whatever, but the benefits of the turf, and so that was the first hurdle. And even as we went around to the service clubs, that was a thing that we had to deal with. But we're out there, obviously, any project, you need your big donors. Right. But you also, how the thing we kept talking about, how do we get the little people in it? And someone that can just give $150 or whatever. And Bob and Fred went down to Mount Pleasant and toured a place where they sold bricks. And so we got discussing, and there's pillars, and there's going to be a fence around it, but there are pillars, and then the bricks. And so then we said, let's set up a situation where someone can buy a brick or a column or other things to do, and the bricks are one that we got a lot of interest in. And so now that's where we're back in focusing on the bricks and getting people involved so that they can be involved in the stadium. Because Bob and I were at football games promoting this, and people would come up and say, well, I can't give $1,000, but I could give $150. And so we came up with the bricks.
Wow. So basically, John, everyone can be a part of this, not just people with a lot of money, but everybody.
Everybody. And if you take a look at the people that have bought in bricks, it's just a wide variety of people from Cadillac, and it's an opportunity for everyone to get involved if they want to be, and when they go to the stadium, they can look down and see their name on a brick.
Mm-hmm. So I want to know, you come home, you finally retire. I mean, you guys had a long run. And you come home and you say to your beautiful wives, guess what, honey? I got a call from the superintendent and the athletic director, and I want to know how that went over.
I think Jan was happy to have me out of the house.
John, how do you go?
Well, it did, because, we were involved in volunteering in the Macker and just a variety of things. And, you read in the paper the festivals that we have, but it's so hard to get volunteers. And I just told Rose, and I just said, I'm too old to do that anymore. I'm too old to do that anymore. And this came up, and it was kind of nice because you step back from the community, and there are people that you don't know. And this community has turned over a lot, and this is just, it was a nice thing to do and get out. And like you say, you could get out in the morning, and Bob and I visited people we haven't talked to and seen in a long time. So it's been a fun project.
Incredible. I want to speak for a minute to the legacy of athletics in Cadillac, and hats off and a shout out to you both, because over the years I've had this said to me in other communities, but I've observed it too as a parent of athletes. Our athletes know how to behave. They know how to act when they travel. They know how to handle defeat. That comes from our leadership. That comes from our athletic director, our administration, and our coaches. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Okay, that's a great point. I appreciate you saying that, because I think that I'm proud to say that I coached for 38 years here between football and basketball, and of course was an educator for 44. But I think that it really takes a team, if you will, to make sure that things are being done right. I mean, it starts at home. I always believe that as a parent myself. I always believe that it starts at home, but it includes all the educators, all the great teachers that students have, as well as coaches, athletic directors. There's a team behind that effort, not only for what they do on the field, what they do on the court, the track, wherever it may be, but we know that sports is a great just a great opportunity, to grow, and not only academically, from being in the classroom, but just because of what you said, how do they behave, how do they act, what kind of people are they? And I think that, for us, I think being involved in this, I think, gave us a chance to kind of come back and say, let's do something special here, at Cadillac with what we're doing at Memorial, Veterans Memorial Stadium. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to speak for myself. My dad, my father-in-law, and two of my nephews have been veterans. So Veterans Memorial Stadium, obviously I played and coached, in the stadium. So it's been a special place. I've always felt it was kind of the center of Cadillac, not only geographically, but just from the different things that took place in there, from football games to now one of the neat things about it is it's not just going to be, and I'm a football guy, but, we're going to have soccer is going to be in there. We're going to be able to have the band, go back in there. They've had limitations because of the field being in rough shape, how much they could be out there. Lacrosse, I think, will be another sport that'll be played on the field. And then I look at some of the other things that potentially are going to happen. I'm hoping that they'll happen, like getting the American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, getting their fundraisers back in there where people would walk and run and try and raise money and so on. So I think it'll get back to that being a real central location for a lot of really great things to happen in Cadillac.
Wow, well said. John, can you speak to the legacy that you built being the athletic director, and how the coaches behaved, which trickles down to how the athletes behave, and how proud we are as community members to have those kids out in the state of Michigan representing Cadillac. Can you tell us what?
Well, we call it educational athletics because athletics is educational, and I always told the kids and the coaches, you really define yourself through adversity and how you handle adversity, how you pick yourself up. Everything's not going to go well when you get out, college, your jobs, and this just gives them a basis that they can draw on. And the legacy, the coaches that were before I got here, and the Don Johnsons, the Hy Becker, the Dave Bryans, and Jeff McDonald. You can just go through the coaches, and there's always been we've get old athletes that would come back, and you can see them, and they talk to the coaches, they talk to the kids about what it used to be, and it's just it's fun. We've always had success, and our kids have always represented us well, and they've always been good ambassadors for us as we go around. And there's a Cadillac way that we do it, and it still goes on. And you look at the kids, and then you find out what they've done later in life, and they'll come back and they'll see Bob, and when we were around at the stadium on this, they'd stop and say, gosh, I remember this. And it's just good to see them grow up and grow in, and it's just and athletics has played a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm. So question for you both. Bob, your favorite sport is football? Is that your favorite sport?
Well, I'd probably say it's I would say it's probably 1A and 1B between football and basketball. But football is what I obviously played here at Cadillac for 4 years, and then coached for 36 of my years in coaching. We're coaching football. Basketball also played, and didn't coach that as long. Sure. But and then I look at Jan's involvement in athletics at Cadillac High, our 3 children, and just the different experiences. And I've always felt that sports is another classroom. It's not might not be in the building per se, might not be the 50-minute the class that you're in, going from class to class, but there's a lot of valuable lessons that are learned on the field, on the court, wherever it might be, that go along with what they're being taught, every single day, in the classroom or taught at home. And you have to have all of those coming together, really to have a successful education, for our children, for our students.
Absolutely. You authored that book, Bob. I lived it with you. John, what's your favorite sport?
Oh, I think most Bob and my age would probably say football. Football is unique, and the locker room is the practices. There's more involved in whatever, and I get laughing about my youngest son played football, and he was lucky he got called up. He went to 2 football playoffs his senior year. They never won a game. In basketball, they won districts and whatever. My son will tell you that he learned more in football about himself and whatever, and they never won a game. And
that says it all, doesn't
it? And it is, but I think my generation going up, football was, basketball still is, and so football, basketball were the big 2. And we didn't have soccer, and golf was a very close sport because it was a country club. If you didn't belong to a country club, you weren't on the golf team. And things have opened up, and there are so many sports for kids, and the tennis and lacrosse has taken off, soccer and girls weren't allowed to play sports when Bob and I were in school, and you take a look at so the growth of it, and so they're all popular, and it's so many more kids are involved, but it would be football and basketball.
Okay. And let's go back to your project. How much money are you hoping to raise? What's the goal? And where are you at in relation to your goal right now?
Well, that's a great question, Katie, because obviously we want to have the very best facility when we're done.
Right.
I mean, that's the goal. And I think the response that we've gotten has been positive. I know there's some people who would like to do more, but they're going to do what they can. And that's why one of the unique things about the project is the fact that it literally, one of the ideas I think that brought John and I into it and said, we're for this, is that a person who maybe can't afford to do a column for $5,000 can do a brick for $150. So we're hoping that no one finds himself in a position where they just absolutely can't do it because of the cost of the lowest price would be a brick for $150, or there's two size bricks, $150 or $300. But then there's also different size columns, and we really felt when we were asked to be a part of this that it had to be something where we weren't going to I guess exclude people because of whatever they were being asked to pay, because our goal was to get as many people involved as we could. Whether it was some of the neat stories have been athletes who have come back who are in a position at that point in time to do the $150 brick, but we've also had some who have done columns. We've had classes that when they've come together since we've been doing this for the last couple of years, where they've either contacted their class or they've actually had a class reunion during that time, and so they've made a donation. Awesome. as a result of that, sure. Just so they will be a part of it. No matter if it's a brick, what the size is, and so on. So that's one of the things that I've liked about this project since day one, is that it tried to give everyone a chance to be involved at whatever level they could be, whether they're a player, whether they're a parent of a player, whether they're a longtime Cadillac resident and they just wanted to give back and see it be. See the stadium be everything it can be. And what I mean by that is what I mentioned earlier, where it's going to be multiple sports are going to be played in there. The band is going to be in there. Hopefully, we're going to get that community, the American Heart Association, Cancer Society, and so on, are going to be able to use it. I know another thing that's been talked about is that hopefully it'll be able to be open during the day. So if a person is walking in their neighborhood or whatever, they can drive over to the stadium and they can walk the track,
nice.
And get their steps in. So I think hopefully it'll go back to being what it should be, in my opinion, is a multi-purpose facility. Mm-hmm. That you don't have to be an athlete, but if you want to walk, you can walk. Maybe concerts will be done there. Other events, will be done there. One of the things that in my years of being a football coach is we would have football teams that would come in, and the coaches would want to talk to us about the field and the whole, that you've got this beautiful field, but you've also got it on the lake. Just the whole setting was just unlike any place I've ever been, and I've been a lot of places in all those years of coaching football. So just the setting and just the aesthetics, I guess, if you will, of what we have. And I think the other thing is it's going to tie in great with obviously the all the I guess transformation is taking place, at the high school. It's going to be like, hey, we've done all these things, and it's going to be something that hopefully is going to be, just something that we can take pride in Cadillac. That we've got beautiful facilities, including the stadium, and that we're going to continue to have great coaches and great athletes and families, joining in on special nights, at the stadium.
We've transitioned. Our goal was for the turf, and the turf wasn't cheap, and so that was originally the goal. And so we were out there, and we had to look for the big donors or whatever. Well, the school district, through different things, got grants, and so the school came to us and just said, we can handle the turf. And so you can do some other things. And so that's when Bob and I transitioned. The press box needs to be remodeled. And so then the bricks, the pillars, the different things that we put on the back burner, because first we had to get the turf before we could do anything else. We couldn't do the track, couldn't do anything until this turf was put to bed. Well, once that was, we kind of transitioned to, okay, how can we get that press box remodeled? It needs to be remodeled. And then we've got the pillars that are going up and the different things, and then the bricks. And so that's kind of where Bob and I are right now. We're back to just dealing with the bricks and the pillars and going out and telling everybody, now you can get involved. This is the time that you can, and here's how you can do it.
How do people get a hold of you to write checks and to be a part of this? It's incredible. What's the best way to get money to you and to contact you?
Well, they actually can go on. We have a website, www.cadillacstadiumfund.com, www.cadillacstadiumfund.com. And on that, it tells everything about the history of the stadium, going back to '56 when it was open, to what we're doing, and then it has the different donations you can do, and then it tells them how they can fill out actually a form to buy the brick. We're running the money and everything is going through the community foundation. Sure. And so that's where the money and the checks get sent. But they can go online, see that, see what they want to do, and if they want a brick, what they want on a brick. There's different sizes of brick. There's a small brick that has 3 lines. You can get a bigger brick that has more, and so they can go online and do that. I tell people they can always contact us, and Bob and myself, if they want to talk to us direct. And but on that website, it has Bob and my email, our phone number, how to get a hold of us. I still get phone calls. I get emails. Just had an email from someone the other day. How do I do a brick? And we got them all set.
Awesome. So Mother's Day is coming up. Father's Day is coming up. Wouldn't that be a nice gift to Dad, especially Dad or son or daughter ran track, or what a wonderful tribute to Dad or Grandpa or Mom or Grandma, a brick at Veterans Memorial Stadium. And so can you tell me, when you get into these class of, let's say, 89, that they wanted, what do those bricks just say? Something like donated by, okay. Have you had any tributes to other folks that you can think of that were special?
Yeah, we've had, it's also a great question, because that's another thing that's come of this that's been pretty cool, in that we've had family members who have done a brick, one size or the other, and it's for, unfortunately, a member of their family is deceased, but played football, and they want to have their name and the class, the class that they graduated in. So we've had actually quite a few of those that have actually the family has decided that's how they want to use the money. I had a former player who contacted me, and his dad had passed away, and he had said that he wanted to do something, and his dad had played. In fact, he had played on an undefeated team back in the 60s, and he said he wanted to make sure, with his dad passed, where his dad wouldn't be able to do it, he wanted to make sure he did it. So he had contacted me, and he did a brick for his dad. He wanted his dad to be remembered, because he had played on that team. So that's another neat thing about this is that John and I obviously have been a look through, people who bought a brick or even a column, and some have contacted us. Some have just, contacted Dorian Lantz, who's been a rock star in all of this as well. And
yes, she is. She's a gem.
She's a gem. And so they've contacted her directly, and because that's where the the money and the information is being filtered through, and that's what they ended up doing. She's talked to them about what a great idea that is to remember a loved one, former player, former coach. or just from a class. I think John mentioned about we've already had classes that have actually made a donation. So one of them happens to be my sister from a class of 1969. So they've already made a donation. So I think people have been creative about how they want to support it by making a donation, but they're also tying it into a family member, a class, a former coach that meant a lot to them that they felt very close to, and so on. So there's been a lot of neat stories like that have come out of this. That and I think the tough thing, Katie, is that we're sitting here right now and talking about it. I've had the good fortune, as John mentioned. I went down to Mount Pleasant High School, and theirs is still ongoing. They're still adding bricks to it and so on, but their field was already installed. Many of their columns are already installed and so on. And of course, being from Cadillac, I'd played Mount Pleasant both football and basketball, so there's some of those names that I recognized, and they're right now where we want to be in 5, 6, 7 years from now, because it's become a very popular thing where people have recognized, family members, former players, former coaches, businesses in town that have been, very generous, towards the school system and so on. So there's so many creative ideas that have come out of this, and I think it's because people realize that if they are involved, that this, for lots of reasons, whether it's a football game, a band concert, American Heart Association is having a fundraiser, people are going to be in the stadium, and they're going to have a chance to see these bricks, and that registers with people when they see that a certain business has donated or they've supported whatever that project is. And so I think they might not come to a football game, but they might come to a different athletic event. They might come to one of these, like I said, American Heart Association or American Cancer Society, and come to one of those walks and or 5K or whatever they're having, and see something there and decide, don't have to have that football background, soccer background, whatever. It can be something else, and people are going to be able to see that brick or that column.
Absolutely.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to the Rotary. The Rotary got on board with us early with some grants in the foundation, during the Youth Foundation through a grant, the Adult Foundation, and so we've had some great people that got on board early with us, which helped us get momentum.
We would like to thank both John Horrigan and Bob Kellogg for coming in and giving us an update on this, and we'll remind you that to donate or to find out more information about this fundraiser, you can go to CadillacStadiumFund.com. That's CadillacStadiumFund.com. Join us next week for more talk, same time, same station. Cadillac Unscripted, sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY.